Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria, and I am 18 years old. I recently graduated from high school, and for my senior project, I hosted a screening of the documentary Papers. Papers was a very powerful film about the stories of 5 undocumented students who were also striving for the American dream. Only in their cases, it wasn't their decision to come to the United States. To more than 64,000 undocumented high school graduates, America is their home and English is their language. I remember when I was 5 years old in kindergarten, after my first day of school, I went back and told my parents, "No entendí nada." I didn't understand anything. English was such a strange sound to my ears back then, and listening to it and not being able to understand anything frustrated me. That night, my dad told me that I had to figure out my teacher's name so I could practice speaking the language and listening to it. I was scared to ask her, so I cried during recess trying to figure out a way to approach her. Before I knew it, she came over to me and asked me what was wrong. In my then broken English, I asked her for her name, and she smiled and answered, "Mrs. Moscato." 13 years later, it is more common for me to speak English with my friends and family than to speak Spanish. My sisters and I speak Spanish with our parents at home, but mostly because my dad says that we can be Americanized, but when we are home, we are in Little Mexico. It is important for both my parents to keep the Mexican traditions and culture alive in our spirit. It is even more important to them that we have education in our lives. When we grew old enough to start caring more about looks and our groups of friends rather than the homework and lessons, we moved to a different neighborhood so it would be easier for my younger sisters and I to keep education as our #1 priority. When we had to move from our house to an apartment, I was in high school as well as my middle sister, and the youngest one was finishing middle school. My dad chose a location that was affordable within our budget, but the school district was better than we had been living in. Okay, I made my point. My father cares a lot about education. Both my parents are always showing their support and cheering my sisters and I, so we try our hardest and get the job done. My dad's message to us has always been that education is the key to success. I believe in 3rd grade, my class and I completed an I Know I Can program that encouraged elementary kids to set their mind on going to college. At that age, I wasn't thinking that I was an undocumented student. I was just a small child that went home to tell her parents that I was going to college. I'm pretty sure my dad answered, "Si Dios quiere," God willing. Once I was a junior in high school, I realized that college might not be an option for me. I had done everything to have a chance to go to college, but at the end of the day, the only requirement I didn't meet was the choice I hadn't even made. I didn't have a social security number. I remember that year I stressed about all my options. I could go back to Mexico and attend a university in Mexico. I wouldn't know anybody and I would be lost in a country I didn't even call home, but the important thing would be that I would have obtained a higher education. A second option was to stay in the United States and make a living as an undocumented citizen. It would be hard and unjust, but I would stay in a place I had called home my entire life. Finally, my third option was to find a way to go to college in the United States, even if it meant paying more or moving away from my family. It was such a difficult decision that I decided to leave it for my senior year. During a research assignment for my English class, I decided that I wanted to research the DREAM Act. I had heard about it but wasn't completely informed on the details of the bill. As I researched the topic, I learned a lot about it, and I also realized that if I tried hard enough, I could go to college, even if it wasn't in my home state. During the research, I also came about the website called papersthemovie.com. By coincidence, that year I also had to choose a topic for my senior project. So being passionate about the DREAM Act, I decided to host a screening of the documentary Papers. I dedicated a lot of time into planning this event because I felt it was important to raise awareness on the problem of undocumented youth. I met a lot of influential people working on the project, and I learned a lot and had the experience of a lifetime. Through the project, I also met the president of a local university. She was impressed with my project as well as with my presentation of the project, and she has given me the opportunity to study in her university. She has even provided me with financial help. The news made my parents very proud and hopeful for the future. My parents have showed their never-ending support my whole life. They have stressed the importance of education millions of times. For me, it means a lot to have a chance of going to college. It is a dream come true. A message I would like to pass on to my peers is to always work hard and shoot for a higher education. Anything is possible when you put your mind to it, and you can reach for the stars. I also encourage them to turn to their parents for help and guidance. There came a time when my parents couldn't help me with my schoolwork, but their support and encouragement was always in my life. It helped me be successful and keep pushing myself to make them proud. Thank you for listening to my story. There are so many out there like mine that also need to be heard. Hopefully the Dream Act can help their stories be heard and their dreams be reached. Thank you.